Hi guys, it's Vivi at Home Writes. So today is a little bit of a like a coffee talk type video. I thought maybe it would be good for you guys to get to know me as a writer and a reader, and so I thought I would do a list of authors who made me want to write. So this is basically not a list of, every author in the world that I've read. It's just basically the ones that sparked my interest in writing, that made me go, oh my God, this is what I want to do, from very young childhood to into adulthood, refreshing my desire to become a writer. So since I have 3 little kids, it's kind of taking over my life right now, the category of picture books. And there are so many brilliant and great authors and illustrators in picture books that I just can't list them all, but one of the major ones that I can list, because reading him to my kids as a young mother, and then later as they became like students learning to read, learning to pronounce words, the really important elements of learning the love of reading, Dr. Seuss taught not only me as a kid, but my children, just the love of words, the love of rhythm and rhyme, and pretty much the illustrations are crazy cute. His characters are just created out of pure imagination, and kids really respond to him. When I used to work with kids, Dr. Seuss was, everybody knew him. When I became a young mother, all the first books that your children get usually from people, so many of the Dr. Seuss books, and they love them. They respond to the rhyme, they respond to the words, and then as they get older, like my son this year when he was learning to read in kindergarten, they had those guided readers with like 2-3 word sentences per page, and those never really sparked him as much as just cracking open Dr. Seuss and reading it to him. He would ask every night for us to read Dr. Seuss books, and then as he got more familiar with the pattern of the words and the pictures, he would read them to himself, and by the end of the year he was reading Dr. Seuss books to himself, and he was loving the freedom of getting to do that. And I think the way Dr. Seuss teaches reading through his writing is really awesome. So, but again, there's so many different picture books that just are insanely awesome. So for the magic of storytelling, for me, storytelling transported, reading and eventually writing transported me from my kind of mundane life to these other worlds. I would find whatever book sparked my interest, and I would just go from there. And so part of that magic of like getting lost in a story, not necessarily having something taught to me, but listening to the words, listening to the pictures that you're telling yourself basically by reading, and having the imagination that I had out of reading to create the worlds that I was reading. L.M. Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables series. And I read the first book, and then we watched the movie in class and read the first book through class, but I had found it prior to that. And then reading her later books subsequently in that series, I began to kind of have an appreciation for the beauty of the words she used. And even though it was very flowery and it was very descriptive, L.M. Montgomery's writing to me was just creating these worlds in my head, even though it was just a ordinary place. I mean, the story took place in Canada and Prince Edward Island. It's just an ordinary place, but the magic that she creates with her words kind of really made it blossom in your head. So that was just, when I read that, I was like, wow, I could do that. I could turn where I live, which is just kind of a mundane place, into this basically magical empire. And that's how we played. We would use our imaginations, and I was always seeing what wasn't there really, from that experience of reading and imagining. So another one along those lines was C.S. Lewis. I found him pretty young, obviously. The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe series, I think my cousin loaned me his first copy, and then from there I started checking out all the books and reading them with, really fast succession after that because they just blew me away. It was another one of those things where it was like, even though it was told in the story that had taken you somewhere, my mind went, how did this person come up with all this, and express it in a way to take the reader somewhere. And so that's where my brain went, I could do that, I want to write that, and later on in life, Tolkien followed along same suit with that. I didn't realize at the time that they were friends and that they had a lot of the similar writing style and similar story construction. But as a teen, Tolkien kind of took me from where C.S. Lewis left me off, basically. So that was really cool. As a kid, also really young, Madeline L'Engle, Wrinkle in Time. I started that as a young kid, and I just read it for the fantastical kind of mystery of the story. And later, when my daughter was in, I think, 4th grade, my husband and I were talking about it, and I was like, well, she should read this book. The movie's going to be coming out. It's, this is something I read as a kid. I think she would really enjoy it. I felt kind of guilty that I had never introduced it to her before because I read it really young. And my husband was like, well, from what I'm reading, this is kind of science fiction-y. He's a big science fiction person, and I never really was. And I was like, is it though? I thought it was fantasy. And he was like, oh yeah, it's science fiction. Like the Tesseract, all these different things that are part of this book are science fiction. And so then we decided as a group, the 3 of us would read it together before the movie came out, as part of like trying to teach her that certain genres of writing can cross-reference each other and stuff. I am getting into more audiobooks, only because as a mom, when I'm running around, the easiest way for me to get the words in and hear the stories and listen to the storytelling is for me to actually listen to it in my ear when I'm driving the kids around, when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm taking care of the house. That's been my fastest or easiest way to get it in. But then if it's something that has really caught me and I can take the time later on to read, so right now, as an example of that, right now I have Diana Gabaldon, I don't even know how to pronounce her names, A Breath of Fire and Ash, A Breath of Snow and Ash book, because I've been reading the Outlander series. I listened to Outlander on Audible, the first book, the second book, I think the 3rd book, and maybe the 4th book. And I think this is book 5, right? I'm not sure. So anyway, I'm on one of them. Okay, so I've done Outlander, Dragonfly and Amber, Voyager, and Drums of Autumn. And I'm listening to the Fiery Cross right now. And I had gotten it to read it, but the Fiery Cross is dragging so slow. And all her other books were so action-packed and full of description. And it's taken her like 5 chapters to get out of the fair that they're at, or I guess it's not a fair, it's like a gathering that they're at, or not even 5 chapters, it's been like, I've been through like, I'm gonna have to look at my Audible, I'll look and see, and I'll put a little ding up here of what chapter I'm in, and they just left the gathering, and it's dragging so slow, and compared to her other writing, I'm going, what are you doing? So I'm really excited to start this next, and then I was going to get the Audible version, but I think I might just read this one instead, especially if she drags in this one the way she did in the Fiery Cross, because I've heard Fiery Cross is really great, but then I've also heard that it drags, and I had gotten both versions, the book and from the library and the Audible, and I had to return the book because I couldn't. It was dragging and it was taking so long, and I normally am a fast reader, and I was like, oh my god, this is taking forever, I'm just gonna audible it. So that's what I did. And so it looks like there's A Breath of Snow and Ashes is the last one at least listed in this book of the series, and then it goes into some of her shorter Lord John series, and then I think she wrote like 2 more after this, so I'm gonna have to get them, and I try to get them done before each season comes out on the show, because it's a show on Stars now, and I try to get them done before each show comes out, because I really want to not spoil the show for myself, but I've found that the show is now straying from the book, so I also don't feel so bad if I do. Anyway, see, I could just go on and on about books, but I'm not gonna anymore, because I also have kids to get back to. So I just wanted to give you guys a little peek of what got me started, it got me excited to write, the authors that inspired me, and then throw a suggestion down if you have any books that you think I should be reading to get myself more in the game for publishing my books, and let me know if any of these that I've listed are your favorites, and if you have any ideas of what you want to see me doing for this season 2 of Author 2. I've got this first month planned out, but anything coming up I can try to film videos based on what you guys would like to see. I'm going to do some Illustrator videos coming out soon on how I'm illustrating my second picture book, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye!